Hello, third grade, and welcome to lesson 8-1. Now, for this lesson, we're going to work on different addition properties. And the nice thing about this is that a lot of these are things that you've seen before. We're going to talk and review the associative property, the commutative property, and the identity properties of addition in this lesson. Let's go ahead and watch our short little video lesson, and then we're going to jump right into our notes and guided practice. So hopefully, since a lot of this is review, it will be easy for you guys and you'll remember the information from previous lessons.
You can use properties of addition to join groups. What are some of these properties of addition? One property is the associative grouping property of addition. The associative grouping property of addition says that you can group addends in any way and the sum will be the same.
Let's find out more.
For example, if you are adding 18 plus 14 plus 15, you can add 18 plus 14 first, or you can add 14 plus 15 first. The parentheses below show which numbers you might choose to add first. Either way, you get the same sum, 47. So, 18 plus 14 plus 15 equals 18 plus 14 plus 15. Another property is the commutative order property of addition. The commutative order property of addition says that you can add numbers in any order and the sum will be the same. For example, if you are adding 57 and 35, you can add in either order and the sum will be the same. 57 plus 35 is equal to 35 plus 57. How is the commutative order property of addition like the commutative order property of multiplication? Both of these commutative properties say that you can change the order of the numbers in the expression and the answer will not change. For example, 4 plus 5 equals 5 plus 4, and 2 times 9 equals 9 times 2. The third property is the identity, 0, property of addition, which says that the sum of 0 and any number is that same number. For example, 39 plus 0 equals 39. Which property of addition says that it doesn't matter whether 0 is the first number or the second number in this equation?
Select your answer.
The commutative order property of addition says that the order of the numbers does not affect the sum. So, 0 can be the first number or the second number in the equation. Notice that there is an important difference between the identity property of addition and the identity property of multiplication. The identity property of addition deals with the number 0, but the identity property of multiplication deals with the number 1. For example, 4 plus 0 equals 4, but 4 times 1 equals 4. How many properties of addition do you know now?
Okay, now for this question, it says drag hats into the mat to model addition. Which properties can you show? So let's see, if we put three hats on one side and 0 on the other, we're showing the identity property. 3 plus 0 is still 3. Now, if I take those hats out and I can do 2 hats plus 3 hats. That's going to give me 5. Or I could do 3 of the dark green hats and 2 of the light green hats, where we just switched the order. So we're showing the commutative property over here. Our answer is still going to be 5.
You know the associative grouping property of addition. You know the commutative order property of addition. And you know the identity zero property of addition.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our notes and our guided practice. So our notes for this lesson, I put 8-1 at the top, addition properties. The first property we're going to review is the associative property of addition, which is also called the grouping property. Now, the reason it's called the grouping property is because we are using parentheses to show different groups of numbers that we want to add first. So if I have 18 plus, in parentheses, 14 plus 15, you can see my parentheses are grouping together the 14 and the 15. That's the same thing as if I grouped the 18 and the 14 instead, and then added the 15. So the associative property uses parentheses to tell you which group you're going to add first before you add the remaining numbers. The commutative property, which is also called the order property, says that you add numbers in any order and the sum is going to stay the same. So 8 plus 23 is the same thing as 23 plus 8. Now, the commutative property also applies to other addition sentences, and we're going to get into an example of that when we go into our guided practice. You can have the commutative property apply to a situation where you have parentheses if the numbers that are in the parentheses are not changing. So over here, if I did 18 on the outside plus in parentheses 14 plus 15, and then I did 14 plus 15 still in parentheses and then plus the 18 after it, that would be the commutative property because I didn't change the order. Either way, I have to start with what's in the parentheses. And last, we have the identity property of addition, which is also called the zero property of addition, because it says the sum of 0, so sum, remember, is what you get when you add, the sum of 0 and a number equals that same number. So 39 plus 0 is 39, or 0 plus 39 is also equal to 39. Now here I put some helpful clues for you to help you figure out which property you're looking at. So if it has parentheses that are moving around different numbers, so the parentheses are moving from one group of numbers to a different group of numbers, that's the associative property. If the numbers are in a different order or they're switching spots, it's the commutative property. And if it has a 0 as one of the add-ins, it's the identity property. So these 3 clues will help you out while you're solving these different questions. Let's take a look at your guided practice. So the first question says, Ralph says he can rewrite 4 plus 5, in parentheses, plus 21 as 9 plus 21. Do you agree? Why or why not? So my answer here is yes, because the parentheses tell us which numbers to add first. So I'm adding the 4 plus the 5 together first, and I know 4 plus 5 equals 9. So 4 plus 5 in parentheses plus 21 is the same thing as saying 9 plus 21. For number 2, and this is what I was talking to you guys about where it gets a little bit tricky sometimes. That's why you have to pay really close attention to which numbers they put in parentheses for you. What property is shown and how do you know? Now, a lot of times when we look at it, we see parentheses, we say, oh, okay, it's the associative property. It's got to be because it has grouping. But if you notice, the numbers that are grouped in the parentheses are the same numbers on both sides. So that means it is not going to be the associative property. Here, this is actually the commutative property because all they did was they moved the 65 to the other side. So now the 65 is on the end instead of being on the beginning, but they didn't change the grouping. The grouping is still exactly the same. So this is the commutative property because the numbers are in a different order, but the parentheses and the grouping of the 2 numbers hasn't changed. So it's not the associative property, it is the commutative property. So when you see questions that show up like this in your independent practice or on your test in the future, pay attention to the numbers in parentheses because they may try to trick you that way. For numbers 3 and 4, they're asking which property is being shown. So 4 plus in parentheses 15 plus 26 is equal to parentheses 4 plus 15 plus 26. So here we can see that since the grouping changed, the parentheses moved from being around the 15 to the 26, and they moved over to be around the 4 and the 15. That makes this one the associative property. For this one, it's pretty easy. We see a 0 right there. We know we're talking about the identity property of addition. Now for the next few, it asks you to fill in the missing numbers. Something plus 90 equals 90, so we know that's got to be 0. 0 plus 90 is equal to 90. For number 6, they said 42 plus 23 is equal to 23 plus what number? So we know this is the commutative property, so we're just flipping the order of our numbers. So our missing number here is 42. The 23s match up, the 42s match up. And for number 7, we have our associative property, 2 plus a number plus 36 is equal to 2 plus in parentheses 23 plus 36. So we have the 36 on both sides. We have the 2 on both sides. The number that we were missing was the 23, so we're able to fill it in. That's it for your guided practice for this lesson. I hope you guys find this lesson super easy. It is based on a lot of things that we've already learned and practiced so far. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day, 3rd grade. Take care. Bye-bye.